The idea, insight, or secret you need for massive impact is just moments away. It's time to claim your career crown. The podcast where business owners and entrepreneurs share the keys to the kingdom to help you open the vault to your greater success.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Petite Queen's Claim Your Career Crown podcast. I'm your host, Lynn Whitbeck, and today I'm joined by our very special guest, Liz Johnson. And we're going to be talking about successful branding, how to craft an effective business growth tool. And there's something that Liz is going to share about internal versus external branding, which is going to knock your socks off. So please stay tuned. This is something I had not heard about before. So this is going to be amazing. And if you get a ton of value from this episode, I would love to invite you to subscribe because it costs nothing to subscribe. Now, Liz is the president and principal consultant of Mountain View Marketing with 44 years of branding, marketing, advertising, public relations experience, and 19 years of website and social media experience. Liz has built and leveraged engaging, effective brands and grown businesses of all sizes in many different verticals throughout the United States. Liz founded Mountain View Marketing 21 years ago with a team of 7 providing these leading experts in their fields. They have a full scope of outreach services, including branding and rebranding, strategic outreach planning, marketing, advertising, public relations, social media, custom WordPress websites, videos, and television commercials, content for all platforms, brand advocacy training, and media interview training. Oh my goodness, so much goodness, right? And of course, before Mountain View Marketing, Liz managed marketing communications for an international energy consulting firm where she worked with a $9 million outreach budget and staff in 8 countries. So I can guarantee you, Liz has the marketing chops to be here. Liz, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to have you on the show today.
Oh, thank you so much, Lynn, for having me. It's truly a pleasure to be here today.
Well, I'm excited to get into this conversation, but it's always good to have a little bit of background and that backstory about what inspired you to go into marketing and then found Mountain View Marketing and really start your own firm.
Well, I think I come by marketing genetically. My dad was a marketing executive. And so as a very young child, I was fascinated with what he did, the results he achieved, the processes he implemented. So I've really been very interested in marketing since a very young age. And I knew early on that that was the career I wanted to pursue. And I have absolutely enjoyed every minute of my 44 years.
Well, and that's so amazing. My dad was in sales, right? Isn't that unique? So getting back to the topic at hand, branding is such a big topic and people talk about it from so many different angles. But from a high level, what does successful branding look like?
Well, Lynn, it's important to recognize that a successful brand is 3 things. It's engaging, effective, and consistent. Businesses that brand consistently on all platforms can actually increase their revenue by 23%.
Yeah.
And businesses that brand consistently both online and offline, they actually get 3.5 times more brand visibility. So creating a successful brand, one that's engaging, effective, and consistent, is really a powerful business growth tool.
Wow. That's amazing. Those are some powerful statistics. So when you're starting to work with someone and you're really taking a look at their branding, How do you do this? I mean, sort of where do you start? What does that process look like? Walk us through that.
Well, if we're creating a brand for a new company, then we start with ground zero with them. If we're doing a rebranding for a company, then we do a brand assessment first, and then we work forward with a rebranding. But I think it's important to understand that a successful brand has both an external role and an internal role. Many people are not aware of that. And it really is important to recognize that. Externally, your brand builds trust and credibility. It builds and strengthens your reputation in the marketplace. It attracts new clients. It helps you retain existing clients. And it also fuels client loyalty. 43% of clients spend more on brands they're loyal to. So that's very, very important. Your brand also has an internal role, and this is what many people are not aware of. Your successful brand attracts top quality employees and exceptional collaborative partners. Businesses with weak brands actually pay 10% higher salaries. And when you have a successful brand, it actually reduces your hiring expenses because it takes very little to entice a top quality employee to come and work for you when you have a successful brand. Your successful brand also creates corporate unity within your team, and it validates your company's mission and fuels morale. So a successful brand plays a critical role both externally and internally.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I've never heard of that internal positioning and the internal brand. It makes absolute sense. And I'm so glad that you shared that because that's a really unique perspective of why this is important for every aspect of your business.
It
So,
is.
yeah. So, one of the things I'm curious about is, for those of us out here, the business owners and entrepreneurs, why is creating an effective business branding and that growth tool a challenge? Why do we struggle with this? Speaking for
Well,
myself.
I think there are a couple of reasons, Lynn. The first is most business owners don't realize the science and the strategy that goes into successful branding. There's a tremendous amount of science and there's a tremendous amount of strategy that goes into creating an engaging, effective, consistent business growth leveraging brand. I also think most business owners are not aware of all of the components of branding. For example, every successful brand, without exception, is based on your value propositions or unique brand assets. Those answer 4 questions. Why choose your company? What sets you apart from the competition? What unique assets do you provide to your clients? And how do you give back specifically to the local and regional community? The answers to those 4 questions need to be woven visually and verbally into your brand to make it successful. You need a logo that's clean, streamlined, and uncomplicated. Keep in mind that statistically, it takes people 7 to 12 times to interact with your brand before they ever remember it. So you want to make sure that your logo is clean, streamlined, and uncomplicated. Your tagline, statistically, should be 5 words or less to be most effective. You want to make sure that the personality, tone, and voice of your company is consistent. For some companies, that's a more casual, familiar, relaxed tone voice. And for others, it's much more professional and formal. You want to make sure that that personality, tone, and voice resonates with your ideal primary and secondary target market, not only within your team, but in the marketplace. So that's an important component of your brand. Your font and typeface are very, very important. If, for example, you have a leading edge progressive brand, you want to make sure that all of your outreach and all of your branding uses a sans serif font, because subliminally that says leading edge and progressive. Whereas a serif font, like Times Roman, says very traditional and dated.
Yeah.
So you don't want to create a brand disconnect there. Also, it's really, really important that you take the science of color into account. And most people are not aware of that. I have 1,800 pages of studies of the subliminal value of color in branding, and it is profound. Color can increase your brand recognition by 80%.
Wow.
And 62% to 90% of a client's purchasing decision is based on color. So you want to choose very wisely. When we do a branding package for a client, we create all of these components, and we do a subliminal color analysis where we drill it down to the specific PMS that will deliver the maximum ROI for your brand.
Yeah.
So I think most business owners...
I was going to say that's Pantone matching system for everybody listening. PMS
Right.
is Pantone matching system. I'm sorry, Liz. I wanted to get that in so everybody knows what that means.
That's true. That's true. It's
I'm
the
sorry
specific shade that
Yes.
you need to use. And it makes a significant difference. We've actually helped clients grow by up to 300% in 18 months through rebranding alone.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I think business owners are not aware of what's involved, the science, the strategy, the components, the complexity. And so it's a little challenging. I don't do my own electrical work, and there's a reason for that. I use a master electrician, and that's his expertise, and he's amazing. I have found in business, I do what I do really well, and I hire people who do what they do really well.
Yeah. And that aspect of delegating and choosing the right partners is so important to truly be able to grow and scale your business. So I appreciate what you said. And I know that we had chatted earlier in the green room. I was going like, yeah, I don't do my own plumbing. So
No. There's a reason why we don't, Lynn.
yeah. So why is impactful branding typically a blind spot? I mean, for business owners and entrepreneurs. I mean, I really appreciate as you walked that through. But you know, when you're going, you think this is who I am, this is my style. You know, you're just getting started out. But I mean, I can see from what you've already explained that because they're not approaching it from that very I don't want to say clinical, but it's almost like a diagnosis in a way. It's almost like a medical diagnosis. Rather than using a specialist, I wouldn't even say they're doing a general practitioner. It's almost like they're just doing some kind of, whatever sounds good to them. So,
right.
How do we get into that mindset of really make that awareness of why branding is a blind spot and how that really impacts creating this effective tool for their business?
Well, I think many business owners think if I build it, they will come. That only works in the field of dreams and the movies. You have to make sure that the brand you create and you leverage is going to resonate with your ideal target markets, both primary and secondary. And every business, without exception, should have a primary target market and a secondary target market. So it's really important to analyze your company, the services you offer, who you serve, who are your ideal clients, determine your primary and secondary target markets, and then make sure that your brand is resonating with them. Because if it's not resonating and penetrating your target markets, your primary and secondary target markets, you may really like it, but it's not going to fuel your business growth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there has to be some amount of gray area where it's got to feel natural and feel good to you, but where it also needs to resonate with your ideal client, and your primary and your secondary audience.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important when you're selecting a branding expert to work with someone or a team that's going to work closely and collaboratively with you. You don't want them to decide your brand. You want them to work closely and collaboratively with you to develop a successful brand. But yes, as a client, you need to have a voice. And
Okay.
that
Yeah.
needs to be woven into the fabric of your brand while still taking into account the strategy and science of successful branding. So that close collaboration, working with a team that's going to be your partner in business growth, is essential.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that the collaboration is so key to any really successful endeavor, because you need to hear the other ideas and the other perspectives that we all have our prism, and that's true in sales, it's true in branding, it's true in marketing, and you need to hear that other side, because it really can, it's part of also just having a growth mindset, right, of opening that up. So with the branding,
Absolutely.
how does this successful branding translate into becoming a very effective tool for your business?
Well, once the brand is created and all the components I talked about are created, then you want to leverage that brand. So you want to push it out in the marketplace. And statistically, the more touch points you have in the marketplace, the more successful your brand will be. The days of one or two channels of outreach are over. It's very, very important that you push your brand out in multiple ways. So you want to utilize it at every opportunity. Your speaking engagements, your profile, your ebook, everything. Your brand needs to be out there. And the more you build and leverage your brand, the more traction it will get for you, and it will be a very effective business growth tool.
All right. Well, and so you're really taking that and then adding that layer onto the other activities to make sure
Absolutely.
that you're maintaining that consistency, and that it's I have this phrase that I use, that you don't want your prospects and or your clients to go to war with you in their mind, where
Right,
there's this disconnect.
right. And one thing I would mention, Lynn, that I think is very helpful, and we certainly do this with our clients, we invest the time to get to know their pain points and challenges in the marketplace, as well as their goals and objectives. And when we design and create and build a brand for them, we take into account the need to diffuse their pain points and challenges and have this brand help them achieve their goals and objectives. And when you have that lens through which you develop it, it's extremely successful.
Yeah. Wow. So Liz, what should listeners do next about taking that first step of either evaluating their brand, looking at what elements they do or do not have? I mean, really laying that foundation to create a successful brand.
Well, I think for an established business, Lynn, it's very important to do what we call a brand checkup. Many businesses, for example, who've been in existence for 30, 35 years, they designed their brand then. Well, their business has evolved, their target markets have evolved, and it may be not necessarily, but it may be today, that that brand is really not resonating and it's not really on point with what their company's doing today, the value that they offer, and the clients that they serve. So by doing a brand checkup, you can assess all of those things and make sure that the brand is still pertinent. And if it's not, then it's time to rebrand. I would also caution people, and we see this mistake primarily with small businesses. Whatever you do, don't tweak your brand in the marketplace. And we see this a lot. Someone will just change their color palette, or they'll change their font, and then they'll wait a few months and then they'll change their logo. Every time you do that, you dilute your brand in the marketplace. If your brand isn't working well, you need to pull back, rebrand, and roll out the new brand. But whatever you do, don't tweak your brand in the marketplace. There are huge lost opportunity costs with doing that.
Well, that is so that's great information. I never thought about that because I mean, certainly from a sales perspective and, a process improvement, we're looking at, continuous improvement. And so that would mean, that you would be, you refine something, you refine it again. I'd never considered that from that brand perspective. Wow.
Yes, the significant cost of doing that is really profound. You don't want to do that. When you do a brand assessment, if you find the brand is not serving your business well, it's not functioning as a business growth tool as it needs to, you want your brand to work as hard for you as you do. If that's not happening, then you need a rebranding and then roll out your new brand. And that can be done very effectively too. You can use that as a promotional opportunity for your company. So many positive things surrounding branding.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, this has been amazing. So, Liz, is there anything you wish I had asked you today that I have not?
Well, I think there are probably a couple of tips I would offer, Lynn, that I haven't mentioned already. One is that 94% of all clients are loyal to a brand that provides complete transparency and authenticity. So it's really important that you are authentic and transparent in your brand and in your business. The other thing that I think it's important to recognize that many people don't think of as being part of their brand, but it is, and that's exceptional client service. That is a component of your brand, and it drives loyalty of at least 73%. When you deliver exceptional client service, 73% of your clients become extremely loyal to you because of that. So that needs to be a component of your brand. That needs to be one of your value propositions or unique brand assets.
Yeah. Well, in sales, those two are both critical. It's that same thing. It's that especially when you're looking at client retention, the loyalty, and receiving introductions and referrals and repeat business. That's vital, both. So thank you so much. I'm glad. I could see that synergy. So Liz, thank you so much for sharing all about successful branding, how to craft an effective business tool. I know that our listeners are going to want to know more about you and where they can find and connect with you.
Well, I would encourage anyone who's interested in more information to connect with me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn page is MV Marketing Liz. Or you can visit our website, mountainviewmarketingllc.com, for more information. And please feel free to reach out if you have questions. I'm certainly here to help.
Absolutely. And we'll be sure to include both of those links in our notes below. So Liz is just a click away. And I want to thank everyone who tuned in. I hope you got so many aha moments the way I did out of this episode. It's been such an informative discussion and so valuable. And Liz, thank you. Thank you for providing so much value today for me, for our listeners. It's been amazing.
Oh, thank you for your kind words, Lynn. I really appreciate it. It's been truly my pleasure to be here today, and I hope that I've provided you and your listeners with actionable tips and tools. I will share that on my LinkedIn page, I do what's called a Mountain View Marketing Minute. It's a video each week, minute to a minute and a half long, that's tips, tools, and actionable information on branding and marketing. So your listeners may find that to be helpful too.
Absolutely. That sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Liz.
Oh, you're most welcome. My pleasure, Lynn. Thanks again for having me.
What was your biggest takeaway from this episode? I would love to hear about it. It's important to share the things you love. If you loved this episode, a 5-star review really helps keep the podcast coming to you regularly. Also, if you want to get more sales strategies to grow your business, make sure you subscribe right now. If you want to get results even faster, I invite you to download my sales strategy checklist at petitetoqueen.com/checklist. This has been Lynn Whitbeck, host of Claim Your Career Crown. I'll see you next time.